was talking to Mr. Woodard here, this isn't an issue we can solve locally. It's not. It's a state issue. They put us in this situation.
Okay, the question though is there's going to be big ticket items that are gonna have to be on the chopping block. And my question to you specifically is, it's been 9 weeks since we've had our workshops that you proposed, and I'm hopeful that, you know, we have some alternatives that you do specifically outside of shutting down Clearwater Valley and shutting down Elk City, and if you do, I'd love to hear them.
Well, that's a determination for the board to make, not me alone.
Sure.
And so I don't have a direct answer for your question at this time.
I've heard the rest of the board say specifically that these are some items that will be on the chopping block. They've said that specifically. They've been transparent to the public, and I'd like to hear if, you know, it's been 9 weeks.
I know.
I'd like to hear what you've got.
I'm not inclined to use that kind of language because I don't think until we sit down at the board, as a board and we actually pencil it all out, okay? Because much of what I've seen is probably much of the same thing that you've seen has been based on speculation. Because there are some factors, and some big factors that we actually don't know at this point. And so I'm not one to broadcast speculation, especially on something that is as important as this. So that's why I don't engage in either that kind of language or in sharing that kind of information, because until we get together as a board and decide, then I think it's irresponsible to do that.
I can understand your opinion on it, but it's really, when you look at like $2.9 million, that's not speculation. Big ticket items are not speculation. There has to be some things that we have to be transparent through with the board to the public.
Right.
And I'd like to hear if you have any ideas.
The ideas that I have don't vary that much from some of that you've heard. I'm just not willing to say I prefer this over that. For example, I will tell you that I am not, and I can't imagine I will ever be in favor of closing Elk City. That's going to be an issue that we're going to need to hammer out, for example.
And for the record, I don't like the idea of shutting down any school, period, closing down any kind of extracurriculars, but I think it's important for people to know, especially those on the fence, what they could potentially be voting for.
Do you think, Larry, that we can get around shutting CV down if the levy doesn't pass?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
You don't know?
Said,
what's your confidence factor? That we could keep
I'm
open if the levy doesn't pass.
Mr. Chair, you're asking me to say that.
I'm just saying, I put myself out there and I get attacked all the time. That's why I'm asking you what your confidence factor is. I think it's got to be 95%.
I'm not even sure what a confidence factor is. I'm not sure why the point of this particular conversation is putting me on the spot when I tell you.
I'll tell you why. It's because I've talked to these other guys and they've told me.
Okay.
And now I'd like to hear publicly your opinion on it.
And I've given you my answer. I want to sit down with the board and go through the whole thing.
Larry, you've had 9 weeks
to
figure this out.
I heard you. And I'm telling you.
How much longer can we kick, out of all due respect, but how much longer can we kick the can down the road?
We're not kicking anything anywhere at this point. We don't even have a determination as far as the vote goes. So why don't we start there next Wednesday? You asked me for my perspective and my opinion, and I gave it to you.
Well, I guess that's clear. Appreciate your honesty with that.
Thank you, sir.
What do you think, Lacey?
What do I think?
Yeah.
I think that unfortunately, those are probably what's going to happen if the levy doesn't pass. Do I want to vote for that? No. I really, I can't vote to shut CV down. But where are we going to come up with the money? Where? Do you know shutting Grangeville down is a $38,500 more savings? But we can't shut that down because how many more kids do they have?
A lot.
A lot. So
Yeah,
disrupt the lives out of
logistics.
124 kids, 6 through 12, or disrupt the life out of 260. to save $38,000. So, I mean, logically, that is probably the option. That's probably going to happen. Elk City was a savings of $70,000 or so.
Yeah.
Right in
There's
there?
a slight chance you could save Elk City.
You probably could, but I mean, like, in all actuality, I don't feel that the entire burden needs to hit the Clearwater Valley.
It's a tough situation. I do not want to shut down schools, I'll tell you that. I do not want to do it. It's just,
I mean,
looking
you're,
at the numbers, I'm just trying to be honest with the public. This is what we're seeing.
and you're gonna see sports, they're gonna go. That's gonna be the first thing that goes. And then you're gonna see kids go, because they gotta get it somewhere. And if they can't be offered the sport, which in our little rural areas, what are they gonna do?
Right, drink.
I mean, Casey Smith said it best, we're dumbing down their education by taking 4 days a week, and then now we're gonna take away their sports, so now they're gonna be equally just as probably causing some havoc out on the streets, right?
Well, that's why a lot of them go to school.
Well,
for
exactly.
sport.
In 13 years in law enforcement, our saying was, is even good kids with too much free time on their hands get into trouble. There we go.
I
So-
think even the Bible says idle hands are the devil's hands.
There you go.
There you go.
So I would actually sign up for public input, but
Well, you
I
can make
think I
your
could
announcement
probably,
or, yeah, whatever.
I think because I can kind of tail on to you, and since we're already having that discussion, kind of about the confusion with the position of the board. So I sent the school board, all of you, the email, so that you all saw it with the screenshots of the comments that were being addressed that, and I wanted to address Mr. Minot, but he's not here. The comments that were being made at a Community Plus meeting a week ago. I did get a response from him, and of course saying, well, these people obviously are putting words in my mouth, but I'm going to condense this down to, thankfully, the young lady shared this on social media, the email that she got from Mr. Minot. And I'm just going to read this. It said, I believe it was Vince, meaning Vince Reinhold, who made the comment about scare tactics, and it was stating, if you read your email, the scare tactics to get yes votes, okay? Who made comments about scare tactics, and I agreed. Still do. And I'm sorry, my eyesight's not very good. And I'm pretty sure I said I agreed with it, but he did make the remark. Regarding school closures, we will have to vote on that specifically after the vote on the levy is done. And as far as I'm concerned, we need to really get down to the weeds to find alternatives before we close any of them. Well, of course, one of my questions in that email was, what are your alternatives? Because we've been working on this for months, so I'd like to know, what are the alternatives, right? Because I haven't heard those yet. So then we go on to say, the RESRS money, it's my understanding that this year's money is going to be used to strengthen the reserve funds we need, enough to pay 1.5 to 3 months of expenses. I believe by the end of the school year, we will have dropped below 1 month, so most of this year's funds will go to bringing this up to an acceptable range. Even though we don't know the exact amounts, in planning for the future, we have to make some estimates. Apparently that's not been done before. In this case, we should have considered next year's $900,000 as usable and dropped the levy amount by another $450,000 per year, but we didn't. So I verified this today, so the roughly 800,000 change, it's very specific what that must be used for and the order of succession that it must be used. It must be used first if we have an active bond, which we don't, it must reduce the bond. Second in line, if we have an active levy, it must be used to reduce the levy. And if we don't have an active levy, Then third option is it can be used for facilities, repair, maintenance, whatever. So I don't really quite understand all of this about, well, we should have done this and we should have done that. Well, I don't know, the state made it very clear what you can and cannot use that for, and the order of succession. All right, but here's the part that I have a big problem with. The school finances overall are an absolute nightmare. Lots of different funds that are managed based on a bunch of different laws. We have a state account where the SRS funds go into one bucket, but that fund has another 19 buckets that hold other funds. When you look at the O&M budget, operations and maintenance, you were only seeing a relatively small part of the total budget, but I think it's the only one that is impacted by the levy vote. And I believe it has been made deliberately confusing to prevent people from really figuring out what's going on. So one of your board members is saying that our business manager is deliberately making it confusing so that we can't figure out what's going on?
That's sickening.
I don't know if Carly's doing that. I will agree with
Well,
you.
I'm going to tell you she's not.
Well,
Because
no,
I follow your financials like you cannot believe.
No,
And
but the
believe me,
state is
my background, I
confusing.
know what I'm looking at.
The state funding is confusing.
Yeah, that part.
I will agree with you. State funding is confusing.
But it's
So,
not-
That's why I'm trying to bring as much clarity as possible,
Right.
because it is confusing. I will give Mr. Minot that, or Dr. Minot that, because it is confusing. But I'm trying, it's like,
to
trying not to sow
deliberately
doubt into this
confuse
community.
people so they really can't figure out what's going on.
Now, is he referencing Carly or the SRS and federal, like, buckets?
I read it word for word.
Well, he's talking, but he's not
districts,
here to defend
The
himself
school's
either.
finances, the school's finances are a nightmare.
And again, you're reading into that, and he's not here to defend himself.
I don't think she's reading into it.
I don't think I'm reading anything into it.
Exactly
I'm
what he's
Whoa,
I'm
whoa,
trusting,
Well, one at a time. Here we go.
thank you, I'm trusting that board members and even myself, when I'm out in the public and I hear things that people say, you know, this and that and this and that and this and that, I do the best I can as an educated former teacher here, as an educated former union member who negotiated for over 8 years for this district. And I set people straight based on the knowledge that I have. And when we have board members that are attending, you know, other meetings or wherever that are agreeing with this kind of stuff, to say, well, yeah, I agree with that, you know, that is just scare tactics. Or saying, you know, things like, you know, that it's deliberately being done, that's a bunch of crap. They're sitting in these board meetings and they're listening to her presentations, just like we are. And I'm believing, I have no reason not to believe what she says. And if they don't, then they should be asking her questions. You guys should be asking her questions at that board meeting. But to go out and to say stuff like that, and because I did the same email that Renita did with him. And he told me, no, I didn't say these, you know, scare tactics. But then he turns around and tells another community member, yep, that's what I said. That's wrong. That's absolutely wrong. If you can't take what happens in these board meetings for verbatim and you're going out into the public, you should resign. That's not being honest and transparent to the public and the zones that they represent.
Correct. And I could read you the response that I got from him to me, and it doesn't say anything like this. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But shame on him.
Not fair to Carly.
Shame on,
That's
yes,
slander.
because that girl has done an amazing job.
That's not-
All right,
Absolutely.
I pick apart your financials for years,
She's doing a great job.
right? And all,
Let's go
yes.
back here. Dr. Wilson?
Sorry, I appreciate your points, Renita. I'm not sure that they're helping move us forward, especially with Dr. Minot not being here. The finances, any of us that have dug into it, it's a complicated formula, and it's gotten more complicated. And the state's trying to help us out with property tax relief. And the way they've gone about that is complicated, because everything's gotta be complicated. We never have a solution to take something away. It's always to add. I appreciate the district putting up some information on House Bill 292 and 521. I haven't got over to talk to Carly or to the superintendent. I think there's ways to clarify that further. We're running out of time before the vote on Tuesday. I think it's important that we don't talk about House Bill 292 funds and House Bill 521 funds. House Bill 292 created a specific fund. That fund is in Idaho Statute 33911. It's called the School District Facilities Fund. That's an ongoing allocation that's going to continue. That's the $407,000 that came last year. I know there's distrust with the way that was presented in the levy presentations in the fall. I choose to take the approach that that wasn't intentionally misleading. It truly was, this is a new fund. This is the first year it's here. It's clear I would encourage everybody, if you're involved enough to be here today, to go read Idaho Statute 33911 from top to bottom, and the changes that were made to that from House Bill 521 this year. But if you get into that, that $407,000 last year, nothing was intentional. It was brand new. Nobody knew the way the fiscal years line up. So Senator Carlson was able to get estimates, now that we're almost to the end of the state's fiscal year, of what Mountain View School District's allocation will be for fiscal year 25. I got an email back from her this morning to confirm that that estimated allocation will directly go to offset the levy that we're voting on right now. It'll be on our tax statements at the end of the year. I haven't been able to get clarity on exactly how it'll be listed, but if you do the math, that's a pretty substantial reduction in what we're paying as property tax owners. It takes it from $182 down to $129 per 100,000. So the information's there. It is challenging and difficult to understand. It makes sense that that allocation is almost double what it was last year, because House Bill 521 increased the sales tax revenue that's allocated to that fund from 2.25% of the total sales tax collected in the whole state to 3.25%. So it's an extra percent of all statewide sales tax that's going into the fund this year. Idaho continues to grow, so our sales tax collections continue to grow. And then additionally, the School District Facility Fund, 33911, now gets 5 ACE, so the majority, over half of the lottery income in this state. And so that, it was roughly $100 million spread across the state last year. It's over $200 million this year. That's why we went from 407 to 252, 396. The numbers are there. They're there with enough confidence that the district needs to be giving them to people so that they have a more accurate estimate. I understand what the legislature's doing. They want to get the credit for the property tax relief, and that's part of why there's the complication with how it's listed on the ballot, but I don't know. It feels like if there's any scare tactics, it's listing an amount that's artificially inflated on the ballots that we're asking people to vote on with what they're actually going to pay. I don't know. That's my frustration. I've spent way too much time.
I honestly want to thank the whole
loss,
community, because you guys have been putting information out there, for the correct information. Because the thing is there's constant criticism from the shadows. Because it's easy to criticize something that's so confusing, right? But I appreciate all your efforts to just put the right information out there as much as possible.
Speaking of the community putting information out there, like, there's probably something that's not correct that I may be like, oops, I just grabbed out of my mailbox, sorry, that I'd like to maybe seek some clarity on. I did email John twice, but he never answered me. It is obviously his former trustee in his spot that is putting out this information. Specifically, my question is about the claims that, it's like 3.4 million will go to dependent care for our teacher families.
Yeah, no,
I'm not done. This isn't on the ballot, and I just kind of want to get confirmation that what Casey Smith is saying about.
I just want to say I personally called him.
Okay.
And let him know that that was not happening, and I see he still printed it.
Great. I mean, it's on his website.
Yes, I did.
He's put it probably in a letter to the editor. He's
It's
paying
not the first time I've seen
over
it.
$400
I totally asked him to
I-
stop.
yeah.
So.
And on the new webpage that somebody designed for him, that by chance, Senator Carlson actually has added her commentary on his No Levy 244 webpage.
She,
Sorry.
in her
Yeah.
email back to me, she said she shared that press release widely, that the Free Press has that same data, and they were working to confirm more of the numbers, so I don't know that she wrote it specifically for
We
WT.
probably just, back here.
Greg Applegate, I wanted to deviate just a little bit from where we are with the levy. This is more directed at, I spent 30 years in administration. Welcome. So I want to let you know, when you are constantly having turnover in your administration, and we're constantly losing people, it takes 3 to 5 years to bring somebody up, and that's a statistic that is universal. 3 to 5 years. So just as we get somebody in a position where they understand the stakeholders, the community, etc., we're having a rotation and people are being moved out. And I think one of the things that could help really stem the tide with the whole view of the district is, first off, not that there aren't competent people, but getting competent people that are willing to make this their home and are willing to work for the benefit of the school and be here for a while. And that takes a lot in terms of when you are interviewing and going at it to see if these people are going to be willing to make this a home here. But that constant turnover, yeah, I think it gives a distress to the community, to the teachers, all involved. So I would really highly, highly recommend that you guys do a very thorough interview process and a very thorough vetting of whoever comes in to fill the superintendent position. I know you've got some promotions going with the high school, but this is very important that you've got some stability, because when people look at it and they don't see the stability, that adds insult to injury. So thank you.
So actually, if the school board actually took the data from the survey that they conducted through the ISBA, 18 months ago? I think it was, 18 months ago. And I actually was at the school board meeting when the ISBA presented the results of that data. And one of the major topics that they got in that survey is that the patrons wanted to have those new personnel. Their biggest thing was that they were people who were local, who had roots here, who the community knew, those types of things. And of course, we haven't yet taken that input from the community, and we keep repeating the same process over and over again. So I would ask that the school board actually possibly listen to the data that was presented by the patrons in that, and maybe if you need to refer back to the ISBA on what the results of that survey were, and take that into account. The community overwhelmingly told you what they wanted, and we haven't listened yet.
Take that into consideration. 5 more minutes.
I just want to extend an invitation to you guys as the board members to attend the GEM Student Skills Showcase that's next Tuesday from 4 o'clock to 5:30. We are showing off some amazing things our kids have been learning about and building and painting and doing all of these wonderful things that our kids are doing. And so I think it's a great place to come and be able to see all of the really good things that I think are going to come out of it.
I appreciate that, thank you.
You can go
I
have
will
dinner and then
probably
come
be
back.
going to CB is doing an art
Yes, I
show
think
the very
they're
same day,
Yes.
or CBE, sorry.
And CBHS.
And CBHS, yes.
And there will be a musical at 6:30 that night too. For the 6th grade. Go have dinner and come back.
Thank you. I'm asking this on behalf of Bonnie Myers, who posted on the 244 supporters page. She says that Carly brought up the fact that there are $3+ million still in the account and interest on that money to total around $5.5 million. To clarify, I don't know where any of this came from, I'm just asking. And she wants a breakdown where the monies are being spent in detail. She says that this was brought up at budget meetings, and so Do you have clarity on what she could be referring to? Carly, I don't know.
Sorry, I was
You heard
finishing a
that.
project.
No worries. I'm asking this on behalf of Bonnie Myers, and she says that there is 3+ million still in the account and interest on that money to total around 5.5 million.
Wow.
That's a good interest rate.
I asked
They're
for
gonna
context
write
or
there.
details about what account or any other information she could give me. She just says it's in the account plus interest made that money 5.5 million total. Do you have any idea what that
The
could be?
3 million, I assume, is being referenced to the SRS funds, which is an account that does earn interest every month. The 5 million, I am not familiar with. The only thing that comes to mind is at the Whitebird levy presentation, a patron asked me about how does the general fund earn interest, and I explained to them that in August, the state gives us approximately 50% of what we should need for the year, and so obviously we don't put that all right into the bank, we put it into this, what a lot of people consider a savings account, but it's our local government investment pool, and so that amount this year was just about 5 million, and so maybe there was some miscommunication there. But obviously every month we draw it down to pay payroll and bills, and so there's not 5 million in there now.
So that would be your LGIP, your savings state treasurer.
Yes.
That was the money that was being dialogued at the conversation at CBE, and it was brought forth by a particular patron, assuming that it still existed in the accounts as 5 million.
And it is not.
So to clarify, that is money that comes from the state at the beginning of the year, and then we use it monthly to pay out all of our expenses. So it will not be new money that's appearing. It is the same amount that the state would be distributing.
Correct. I tried to emphasize that the first 5 line items in our budget that I presented to the board, it talks about state discretionary funds, salary-based apportionment, employee benefits, and special distributions. And I was like, those all together equal about 10 million, so half of that is 5. So that's, I try to explain that that's where that was coming from. So I don't know if that's exactly what they were referencing.
And
But that's my answer.
I assume we just got our SRS funds, I assume?
Yes.
And it's probably significantly lower than
It is lower than I budgeted.
it's mostly because I got my SRS funds yesterday, it was significantly lower than I budgeted.
Thank you.
One minute.
So I just want to say, because I didn't get it in there,
Okay.
I just want to say that our new comptroller is doing a very good job, as far as I'm concerned. Okay? I want to, I guess, give her props for the fact that several things that throughout the years that I kept addressing with the school board, that I truly believed was happening, but I couldn't get it on a records request to get the documents to prove it, right? That she has rectified those issues, those expenditures that were needless and irresponsible are no longer happening. And she was a honest enough person to admit to me that yes, everything that I had been bringing up in the past was happening. And so if anybody wants to ever say, well, that our comptroller is not being, I guess, transparent and forthright, I'm going to have quite the argument with you about it.
You're doing a great job. Good job, Carly.
All right, guys. We're moving on to open meeting, please.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thanks, everybody. We had an executive session before we had our town hall. B. Edwards called in to get us going, and we actually will have an executive session after this, so we'll actually be kicking out from this one. So that's just an announcement. All right. Any public comments?
Renita, board meeting?
Oh, I already covered it, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna scratch your name off then.
Yep.
Greg, administration?
Already.
Okay.
Good to go.
I'm gonna not acknowledge that either. Katie, responsibility.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and fellow community members, one of the first lessons I remember my dad teaching me is that with a lot of responsibility, if you're responsible, you get a lot of freedom. And if you're not responsible, you don't get a lot of freedom. And as a community, we have been tasked with the responsibility to fully fund education. It was purposefully done with House Bill 1 in 2006. The reason for this is so we can directly invest those dollars back into our community. These are local jobs. These are local kids. These are kids who will grow up to be local employees and business owners. And it's important that we recognize that and see this as the investment for what it is, because we will be the ones who reap or don't reap the dividends that it would pay out. The other important lesson he taught me was the power of compound interest. If you invest early and you do that up front, then you can skate by later on. But by prioritizing an upfront investment like we do with education, it pays much greater dividends than we can possibly catch up for. Think of how much we save by putting these taxes towards education instead of having to pay for more expansion to our county jail, instead of having to increase the amount of other social programs that need to be put in place in order to help prop up civilians who are not able to build productive lives for themselves. I saw so many kids when I was a teacher who wanted badly to build better lives for themselves, and the best tool that they had to do so was right here in this public school. The CV student who was just named the Senior of the Year is going to Harvard. Not long ago, we had another student from Grangeville who was able to go to Harvard. The reason that they're able to do that is, number one, the knowledge that they gained in their classroom, and then number two, the skills that they gained through their extracurriculars. He's able to get scholarships because of the activities he was involved in. I graduated with my bachelor's and my master's without any student loans because I was involved in extracurriculars that allowed me to get scholarships. Kids need these opportunities to pay for their education and continue to become better and more productive members of society. Business Professionals of America students practice and apply business management skills. FFA students practice and apply agricultural marketing and management skills. HOSA students practice and apply healthcare professional skills. If we take these away, it will hurt the kids today, but it will hurt all of us so much more down the road. Responsible investment happens early, and it's so important that we as a community realize that this is not just another tax. It's our responsibility to the kids to invest, and so we all benefit in the future. Thank you.
Jason, community?
Thank you, Katie. Jason Weber. One of the main reasons I got behind supporting the levy is summarized pretty well from Brian Lawrence. He's with Lawrence Family Farms, and he's also Vice President at Columbia Grain. To quote Brian, says, despite our firm opposition to the prevalent reliance on property taxes as a primary source of funding for public schools, we strongly support that robust schools are fundamental to the vitality and appeal of any community, making them desirable places to live and work. So like Brian and so many people in the community, I'm ultra frustrated with the funding model in Idaho for public schools. No secret to everyone, and the constant battle with everyone here. All that said though, like Brian made mention, public schools are a huge economic driver in our area, and it's also a sense of our identity. If you like it or not, that's true. It's just undeniable. The board, you guys are in a real tough position, assuring the district through this really tight financial time and a ton of eroded trust in the community. The time that I've had in the district in the classroom of sport, I coach kids from Bosco and Prairie, St. Peter's of Paul, gyms, GHS, homeschoolers across all faith communities, and I can't think of the name. They do both. Dual enrolled, thank you. And that's all through Grangeville properties. The sense of a community here, and that draws kids from all over the Prairie. And some people think that those homeschoolers and private school kids are perfect and that the public school kids aren't. There's a hair's difference amongst all those guys. They're just good kids all around. Nobody's better, nobody's any worse. They're just kids that want to learn and they want to get out and get involved. I guess just three asks for you guys prior to the election, or rolling into Tuesday, is bring clarity to the tightness of the budget. I know Kelly touched on some things coming down the pike, but it still doesn't make up that 2.9 gap. I think Carly's done an amazing job on really bringing clarity to that. It is tight if we don't make it, and it's going to hurt communities. Continue championing our schools. Mr. Minot's got that challenge, and Renita points it out. We really need to have people champion on the board. It's tough to stand up to some of these community members that really want to slam our schools, but that's why we put you guys on the board, with some backbone and stand up. And I guess to Mr. Applegate, your long-term communication as a group to the community, it's going to take a lot of hand-holding to get some of these scars healed up. And to his point, it's creating that stability is just going to make the entire community better. So, thank you.
All right. Moving on to consent agenda.
A motion that we accept the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Approval of, do we need to go through all these?
Yeah, nope,
Nope,
you just
I
did all
did
that.
sections.
We're good.
So now you're here.
Okay, reports. Superintendent report and recognitions.
All right, so I have Apple Awards. I'm going to go in alphabetical order. And since two trustees are not here, I'm going to announce them and then I'll get the signatures and give them out. So Amanda Bush, congratulations for transforming special education within the district and becoming centered on the implementation on how students are identified and served. Carrie Keeler, congratulations for being an excellent resource for all employees and her work to ensure the principal hiring process is structured. Carrie Lemke, congratulations for assisting in the transformation of the district office into a service-based focus. I did have comments on the library committee because as we formed the committee, we said we would report on it. We met for a second time on last Thursday. We have some policies that we're going to present on June, hopefully clearing things up so that we can move forward and get the library project finished off. And I guess any questions you might have from my report. Also, okay, one other thing, I took a survey from the principal interview screening team, and I've got survey results there for you. I asked 5 questions, got their impressions of how they thought the process went. They liked it, thought it was good. We took student feedback and had tours and so on, and they all thought it was good. So,
That would be it. That's it. Moving on to principal. Whoa.
Okay. Can he speak on behalf underneath the superintendent report really quick? Okay, we'll just do it.
I just wanted to present to the board that our current recording situation is lackluster at best. And the investment that would be required to actually do a professional level recording of the meetings would be probably $500 to $1,000. That would include microphones at each one of your stations, as well as a upgraded camera. And so I just wanted, before I made the investment, I wanted to present it to you guys to get your feedback on it.
The question that occurred to me is what we're currently doing adequate? If the point of it is not entertainment, it's to provide information.
So currently, in this environment, yes, but in a larger room like the high school library over here or CV library, other places, it's very challenging to hear your voices with just a room conference microphone like this. There is a way we could just invest in the sound and keep the camera the same and probably keep the cost more around $100 to $200 for just like a standing conference microphone in the middle of you guys instead of a mic station for each.
As soon as we decide to do that, that would be my preference.
I mean, like, I get it, technology is moving, like, it's always growing.
Sure.
Is that within your budget?
Yeah.
Does he have money in his budget for upgrading technology?
For upgrading technology, yes. I was curious if the board felt this was the appropriate place for it.
I think we should probably table it until
Well,
maybe a later
there's
date.
no action taken.
Yeah, no,
It's
it's
just thoughts.
It's just
Yeah, okay.
hearing your
Food for
thoughts.
thought. Food for thought.
Okay, well, maybe we'll talk about that.
Yep,
at a
maybe
later date.
think about it and let me know what your opinions are on it. Thank you.
All right. Now, principal reports.
I don't want to take a lot of time, thank you, Melanie Martinez. Thank you for the tough job you do. You have my reports, I know they were kind of late coming to you. I don't want to go through all of that, but I would like to draw attention to the Elk City School. We do have a wonderful teacher there. Unfortunately, he is going to have to vacate that position because of the uncertainty of passing levies. That's not the only reason. He loves the community, but truly, it's hard to find housing in Elk City. So it's something that we need to be considering. How do we attract and retain people that are really good quality, like Joe Birch has been, he's wonderful, and we're losing him. And it's because of this. So consider that, please.
Federal programs report.
I don't have anything to report for that, but I will talk when we adopt curriculum.
Moving on to financial report.
Nothing too exciting besides just me always pulling up the website because it's a good, or I hope it's a good resource. I know Michael and I have been trying to just fine tune it a little bit, so it's just a little bit more easy to find items. But so right now we have financials up at the top. And again, I just have all of my information down here. Board reports are what I give to the board each time we go over that. I don't have anything new there. Budget and levy information. So this is the levy presentation that I had the end of April and beginning of May in all of our locations. I also have a sample levy ballot. I noticed that was in the paper this week as well. So I think that's important. One thing I did want to bring up is that Lacey kind of already hit on it, was we got our SRS funds this week. I did budget $1 million based off of previous years and kind of trends. It came in at $930,000.
that is budgeted into the SRS funds for 23-24 school year. It will be included in the available balance for transfers, like we have on the general fund line item, transfer from SRS funds, technically it says forest funds because I think that rings a bell in more people's heads. That transfer is not what comes in every year. It's from the available balance that's in the SRS funds. And so I just like to make that clear. So it's budgeted this current school year. It was off a little bit, but next year, the state has not reauthorized the funding for SRS yet. So I am trying to get a hold of someone from Senator Crapo's office to get me some guidance, like will it happen, will it be later? I get really nervous about that, like obviously I want to be able to include that in the budget that's going to be talked about at the next regular board meeting. But as of right now, my guidance from the state is that I should not include it. So just a heads up on that. It has come to us year after year. Of course, the state always makes sure that we're just cautious, but I like to be open about that and what I've received from the state. So that's kind of the only additional thing I have about my report this month. Any questions?
Sounds good.
Jill, will you move this on?
Moving on to business, principal contracts. Melanie Martinez, CDE, Elk City Principal.
Okay, my recommendation is contract duration of 2 years for the 24-25 and 25-26 school year, salary to be determined.
Any discussion or any motion?
I will motion to accept Mr. Spock's referral of renewing those contracts for the 25, 26, 27 school
No,
year.
25, 24, 25,
2 years.
25.
Sorry, 2 years. 25, 26 school year.
We have a second? Second. Any discussion? Sounds good. Motion carried. All in favor?
No.
Motion carried. What are we doing here?
You're good. Jessica.
Oh, we're moving on to
Jessica
Jessica.
Robinson, again, the contract duration 2 years for the 24-25 and 25-26 school years, salary to be determined.
The motion that we accept Mr. Spock's recommendation for a 2-year contract for Jessica Robinson.
Second?
Yeah,
No discussion? We don't have to vote on this?
Yeah. You got the vote.
All in favor? Okay. All right, moving on to adopt curriculum.
In your packet, I need to give you an update. We removed one of the items that was on your original packet. It was the accounting textbook. So it's off for this round. A different option came available, so we removed the original recommendation. And we do have another curriculum adoption meeting scheduled for next Wednesday, May 22nd, here at the district office. Begins at 8 a.m. It is open to the public. We'll be looking at that accounting textbook, and then we'll also be kind of doing a round 2 on elementary math, kindergarten through 6th grade. Invite you all to attend if you'd like. So I just removed the one item for this time.
Very good.
Chairman Harrington, I'm going to put a strike through the accounting curriculum.
Okay.
Just strike through it on the minutes.
You can just do that. So we're done with that, moving on.
Do you need a motion to adopt those or not yet? You
Yes,
need a
please.
motion to adopt them,
Yes.
yes.
We have a motion to adopt that curriculum.
Just the math and
Math
physical
and physical
science.
science?
Let's do separate motions, please.
Yeah. I would motion that we accept the math curriculum.
I would second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Discussion.
Discussion.
No discussion.
I'm just wanting to verify that funding for this is already in existence.
We're using the remainder of our ESSER funds.
Nothing being held over or anything to finish paying for these. Okay. And it'll stay the time. Is that the case for both items?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Okay, thank you. That's good. Okay, that's all I got.
Can I ask a question? What does provide for rigorous learning? Are you learning it fast?
Yeah, that's the same question. Good idea.
I'm sorry, what did you say? Your letter states provide for rigorous learning based on best instructional practices in mathematics.
So the curriculum is designed in such a way that the lessons that the students receive are rigorous.
Okay.
They encourage critical thinking, that sort of thing, and they follow the best practices for how to teach math. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
I thought, oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Discussion good? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And physical science.
Make an adopt, a motion, we accept the physical science curriculum.
I second that.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. House Bill 521 discussion.
Okay.
Someone versus Dan.
Super big stuff that's been out there. This is one of those items that, yes, it's been coming through down the pipe from the state for a little bit. Obviously, it's been in the legislative session, and I'm not one to just jump on it and bring it to the board and be like, guess what we got, because the state likes to change things. And so I try to be a little cautious and take my time to make sure I understand it before I bring it to you guys to explain it. And so I do apologize if there's been any thoughts of the information not being out there. Again, I just like to make sure I have all of my ducks in a row. For example, I got an email from the state on Monday, and prior to Monday, the number we were receiving, maybe I should talk about it first. Let me talk about the bill. I apologize. So House Bill 521, which is the modernization and facilities fund, and that is bringing $1 billion from the state and spreading it out to schools to support 10-year facility plans. So there's two options for it. There's an annual distribution and there's a lump sum distribution. So prior to Monday, the number I had been receiving from the state was approximately 4.466 million. I just got a number on Monday that has changed a little bit. It's now 4.392 million. So again, it's just, and it still says estimated, because that will be finalized, I believe, when it comes into code, July 1. But again, that's why I try to practice a little bit of patience before I bring it to you guys, because it's just ever changing. The timeline we need to do this House bill and be able to accept the funds is we have trainings and webinars we need to go to. Myself, Mr. Spock, and the facilities team has already attended 2 of them. We have another one June 5th, and then another one estimated in July. So that's part of it, because it's understanding what's going into the facilities funding. Another part of it is having a 10-year plan for our facilities. So we have a gentleman, Rich Boucher, thank you. He has been doing 10-year plans for about like 10 school districts a year, and he did Cottonwoods, and they were kind enough to kind of show us an example, and then Rich also sent us an example of Middleton's, and it looks really thorough and good, and so we do have him set up to come. It is a requirement for us to receive the funds, and so there's a lot of steps we need to go through, but I've added just a little bit of verbiage that I've received from the state in your packet to kind of go over it. Another addition that I had on everyone's, on the table today was another email I received on Tuesday this week. So, again, just constantly getting updates from the state about it and how we can use it. So, the lump sum option would be that we would have to, in either way, we would need to tell the state our choice by, I apologize, I just had it. July 1. So the lump sum, we would like that all, but we would only get approximately 10% in August or September because they won't be able to sell all the bonds they need to fulfill the funds for all the school districts. So like we would still be getting it. They haven't like specifically said if it would be throughout this coming school year or if it'd be like at the end of the school year or all the remaining 90% at the beginning of next school year. But they did say that we'd get 10% in August if we chose the lump sum. If we did that, it would be used for like capital improvements or additions, and it would be, we would have to say it's based off of our 10-year facility funds. But keep in mind, it's for 10 years. So it's not like we could just grab it all and spend it in the year. Because a part of this bill that helps with some of this funding is that we're not getting our lottery and match money anymore. And that was about $140,000 to $150,000 a year from the state that helps our facilities. So we have to keep that in mind. If we're not getting the $140,000 to $150,000 a year, again, do we want to spend that all at once? But that's kind of part of the lump sum. If we chose annualized, again, we'd get 10% every year in August, and it would follow House Bill 292 regulations. So it would first go to pay off existing school bonds, and then payment of supplemental school levies if you don't have bonds, and if you don't have either of those, payment of school plant facility levies, and if you don't have that, then any monies that remain may be used for construction of new facility, renovation, or maintenance needs, used to secure and make payments on new school facility bonds, or saved in a reserve account by the school district for future school facility needs. That line item may sound familiar because that's what we had this past August. So it would go along those same lines. They both obviously have their pros and cons. My cautious side of me believes we should go towards the lump sum, because what if we choose annualized and then in 3 or 4 or even 5 years the state decides that was a lot, let's pull it back, and we don't get the remaining years. That one scares me. Also, as we mentioned, we have a decent local government investment account that we hold these monies in for when we're not using them, and they earn a decent amount of interest. So there is a lot to think about this bill. It's a very hefty one. There's a lot that is included in it. I don't know, maybe we could just start jumping into questions and
Just a
kind of
couple
work it out, yeah.
More clarifying than anything. So we don't have a schedule or any kind of expectation horizon in terms of if we went to lump sum, I'm saying. When we could expect to receive those funds. For all we know, we're gonna get 10% every year until we, right, I mean, that would be a cautious way to put it. There's nothing that would prevent us from putting the money that we receive and don't immediately utilize in an interest-bearing account, right? I guess I'm
If
saying,
we-
I'm hoping.
If we did the lump
If we
sum,
did the lump
and
sum,
yeah,
okay.
we would get it and it would go into the interest-bearing account.
Do we have, and I know this is a little crystal ball, do we have the ability to modify our 10-year plan, which obligates us up front as to how we're gonna spend them? Is there any language that suggests we have the ability to modify it for need?
Yes, my understanding is that, again, a 10-year plan is a plan. Things come up, we need to adjust. Yeah, they don't hold it to us. One thing that Cottonwood did say was that Rich added sprinkler systems to their 10-year plan, and the board decided, no, we'd really rather use it elsewhere. And so just because it's on the plan doesn't mean that that's what the state's holding us to. It's just allowing the state to see that we have plans and we know the age of our facilities and really what is the most important.
Using the money wisely is the theory.
Yes.
With respect to the July 1st this year deadline for telling them what we want, that's hits their office by July 1st, but it's all electronic anyway, so that shouldn't be a problem. Is it realistic to think we're gonna have our 10-year plan done by then?
No. He said he will be here in June 10th, to walk around with Ty, and he's gonna look at all the buildings, and he said he could get it to us by our July board meeting.
Okay, is there a deadline for?
There's not technically a deadline, like we have to tell them if we want lump sum or annualized by July 1, but to receive the funds, technically we just have to mark off all this, say we made our trainings, we have our 10-year plan, and then they'll give it to us. So technically, if we turned it in December, that's when they'd give it to us. I don't
Not to follow everybody else, but pretty much everybody's taking lump sum, the majority of people.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Kind of better.
No.
I like your
This
observation.
says, use life of the lump sum, you have to no less than 7 years. So does that mean we have to use it in no less than 7 years? Or,
I think they're talking capital.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Capital purchase.
So I mean, like, you could, yeah, okay.
Do we actually want to make any decisions tonight, or do we want to table this till?
Well, it's kind of hard because, I mean, like, if you take it as the lump sum, you can't use it to buy down a levy. I mean, you can't do it that way, but then if you don't take it as a lump sum, it might not be there. So that's kind of a catch-22 right there.
Yeah.
Because things do happen at the state level that.
I would guess if we do take the annual, none of that money will ever go towards facilities management.
No, it would more likely go.
I mean, just the way we've
I
been
mean,
practicing.
some of it probably would, like, I mean, would that be something you could upgrade your security systems with,
I would
I mean,
imagine so.
That would be a facilities use, right?
Yeah.
But you
Or
could use it,
could
but
you
we've been-
build an
we've been running
apartment
that
in an
levy.
up-city school with it?
Well, I know
Because that would
it has to
be-
be student occupied buildings. We talked about our superintendent meeting yesterday, and an example of supplies.
Yeah.
We could buy an HVAC system, that would be wise use, but not the filters that go in the system.
I think the question that's not getting asked, would there be some way to legitimately and honestly reconsider allocation such that the levy amount would be otherwise adjusted, you understand what I'm saying? Otherwise, savings realized, because that's awfully, I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
What Lacey brought up.
I would imagine that, like in 2 years, we are going, okay, like roofs keep coming to my mind because that's what we've been talking about. So in 2 years, we go, this building really needs a new roof. And so it's part of the budget. And so it could be that portion that buys down the levy.
Just in the interest of the community, there's gotta be a way we can.
Yeah, and I did notice, like, if you don't use it appropriately, they take it out of your state funds.
Yes, yeah, they have said that as well.
So, I mean, if you try to skew a little bit,
Yeah, the new email I got on Tuesday on,
I mean, don't get me wrong, like, I would like to use it as a buy down to the levy to help the patrons out a little bit more. But at the same time, our buildings are in dire need of some things that
yeah. So,
it could really be used for.
yeah, an email from the state that I got on Tuesday that kind of had follow-up and information. It basically says, school modernization facility fund information provides further clarification on allowable expenditures. In summary, routine facility maintenance is not an allowable expense in nearly every circumstance. Much of this guidance was provided by the Idaho State Building Authority. And then again, the time frame and perimeters updated it, and it just talks about that outline, but yeah. So the lump sum really is for the state of our buildings.
Yeah, and it also says you can't use it for any sporting activity.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, like, you can build new
Can't build a
bleachers
gym.
or.
Kind of going back to the student occupied building part.
Yeah. So, yeah, with the state of our buildings, I mean, they're old and they need some serious loving. I'd probably go for,
Well, we're not in a position where we have to make a decision today.
it's an action item.
Do you want a motion, or do we want to table it, or what?
Do you want to wait, or wait till B and John are here too?
I think it'd be good to have.
That'd be good, and I'd also like to get a bottom line, sounds like the figure itself is even somewhere there.
Well, let's table it then. I'll motion to table, House Bill 521 discussion until, all the rest of the board members are here.
I'd say that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on, and we probably won't make any decisions tonight, but school closure process. What would that look like if we're forced to do that? Just planning ahead.
Well, the administration is gonna meet on Monday. We found our reduction in force personnel 5740 and the procedures on that. We're gonna review we're gonna review the list, see, and this specifically discusses certificated staff. And we're gonna see where people fall and come up with a list. And then notify people, well, after that, levy results, we'll bring a list to the board so that, because of the policies, that it says the board will make a motion and then we'll implement it.
Mr. Chair, excuse me, hoping that the levy passes, and don't even want to have to ask this question nonetheless, is it your intention to put a work group together or some process by which we can, as Mr. Mennel mentioned, as I've mentioned in the past, sit down and actually put pencil to paper? I'm hearing more inclinations, for example, that there's a not unrealistic possibility we can take Elk City, for example, off that list, that sort of thing. How do you propose we go through that process once we know what we're facing? How do you propose we go through that process?
I don't know, I would guess the staff know more than we do. I'm open to suggestion. I would guess we're gonna need the maintenance people and us supervisors and whatever you guys can think of.
I kind of see it as a progressive process where we collect information and get it properly categorized and start doing comparisons about options if we have any. And so we get down to a point to where, not to oversimplify things, because God knows we can't do that, but that we get to a process where we say we have basically plan A, B, and C, and then start looking at those in terms of, do we really, I want to get to a point where we're able to say we simply have no other choices, no other options, because at this point we still do. They may be limited, they are limited, but I'm not satisfied as to how they're limited specifically. Again, like I said, Elk City has come back up as being a possibility of not being a capital city, so that's a good example of what I'm talking about.
No offense
No.
there. And don't take it the wrong way. But we've been doing this since August.
Yeah.
And there's, I mean, like $70,000 for a school. I'd rather shut Oak City down and use $70,000 to keep something at CV. Sorry, that's just what I think.
That's what I'm talking about.
I mean, I've said this so many times, but we didn't even get to 2.9 in our cuts. I don't know how we're gonna come up with more if we can't in this many months come up with that. in
Well, I'm not
2
suggesting,
days.
I'm not suggesting cuts, I mean, that would be nice, I'm just suggesting making sure that we're making the wisest choice possible for everybody concerned. The word equity hasn't come into this yet, but.
Right, I completely understand that. And what do we get from the state, Carly, like 11? No. How much money do we get from the state? How much money do we get on this? Is 11, we gotta come to 14, right?
Oh, yes, sorry.
We gotta get a total of $14 million?
Yep.
And we get a total of,
Yeah, just under 11.
just under
Yeah.
11.
Yeah.
And we got less SRS funds, so that means we're gonna more cut. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, we're going to have to cut
I didn't say otherwise.
after, we have to cut, because there is no money.
Didn't
We
say
spend $1
otherwise.
million a month almost, actually over, right? We spend over $1 million a month. We do not pay for health benefits. Dependent, sorry, thank you, Casey will get me. We don't pay for that, and in all actuality, like, you start, the state, we are only required to pay, what, 60% of employee health care? If you start touching crap like that, you aren't gonna have anybody left here.
They will walk out.
We can't afford it.
We can't do it.
I mean, we don't have enough kids. If you got some of those kids up there on the hill to come enroll in our schools, there'd be more money. But I completely understand, sometimes I get why they don't bring their kids to school. I mean, there is no money. Like, we've looked at this for months. CV's on the chopping block. Elk City's on the chopping block. Sports is on the chopping block. It's there. But if you want to get together, we can get together. I'll get together with you.
So, beyond maintenance supervisors, school bus supervisors, who else would we want to be a part of this process? Do we have any suggestions beyond that?
All your principals,
All the principals?
your board chair, your board vice chair. Actually, no, it should probably just be the superintendent.
We're fine with that.
And then he could come to us, because I look at you all as names and people, and you really just have to look at the position. I'm sorry.
Comptroller would be,
Comptroller,
thank you.
probably your HR, wouldn't you?
HR. You writing all these down for us?
I am.
Wonderful.
I mean,
You
Mr.
probably
Spock,
don't
do
need
you,
to, like your principals that are heading on their way out, you probably want to invite your new principals that are coming in.
That would be
yeah,
good.
Mr. Spock, do you want to say that we're having a meeting on Monday? Oh,
But I will say it again, we're gonna meet Monday, we're focused on 5740, which is the certificated, to come with our list. And I'm hoping that, we talked about Possible levy special meeting dates. You can choose the date so we can come to you with the file on the list to say, okay, we need to implement it.
Is that Monday or Tuesday? Is that your?
What Tuesday?
I got the 22nd available.
I don't.
Or what?
You'll be gone for a while, right?
I am.
I'd be heading out of town too, if I could. It's a good idea.
My son is graduating next week. Thank you for the invite to GHS, by the way. But we graduate just in about an hour earlier. And I'm on vacation, yeah. So I'm sorry.
I asked, we were talking, give them dates.
When do you get back?
The 2nd?
June 2nd? You're not.
I'll be
This is
available.
gonna be tough.
So I could do, yeah, because my last day at work is the 23rd. 23rd? Don't really want to do the 23rd, but could we do it earlier?
I can do the 23rd after 4:30, actually I have 5.
That would be best because John's back then too.
Okay.
23rd.
Because I got a bunch
Wednesday,
of,
the 23rd?
I got
Isn't that class night?
Thursday.
21st is our class night.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
But it might be B's.
I got family coming in.
Yeah, is it Granger's
The
class night?
23rd
Yours
on
or
the coast.
Thursday? Yeah.
So could we do it like earlier? Could we do like,
What do you mean earlier, like early in the day?
yeah.
I can't, I have a full-time job.
Me too.
No,
Fancy that.
That's
Do you want to change your meeting that you're doing on Monday to this week, and then we
What's
can
wrong
do
with the
this meeting on
22nd?
Monday?
I got something on Wednesday.
Today's Thursday.
Yeah, as I say, on Wednesday, 22nd.
That I have open. That's, well, you're gonna be gone.
And the second's also that curriculum adoption meeting?
so if we do the 23rd, I would like to, on Kim's behalf over there, add the curriculum for you guys to approve that.
Tyler, that's Grangeville's senior night would be probably. It could for her.
The May 22nd is?
Third of May.
Can we do
Anybody,
it like
right? Is that correct?
conferencing
Thursday.
instead of being here?
Friday's the 24th.
On the 23rd, well, we can't do it because it's Granville's senior night, so do you want?
Oh, that's right.
We can do it Friday night.
No, that's graduation.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right. So then you could do the 28th.
28th.
28th?
Comes the 28th.
It would have to be at 5:30 or 6 o'clock.
That's 6.
I would love that, 'cause I
You're
have
out,
a-
right?
Yeah, I'm unavailable that week.
28th?
Lacey's unavailable, and I will not be back until June 7th. I am out.
Wow.
I leave
Starting the 29th?
starting 30th.
Okay.
That being said, I'm available 10, 11, 12, June, not the rest of the week.
But what is that gonna do to your curriculum? Yeah.
Sooner the better.
Sooner the better, because we need to be able to get all of the invoices processed and the payment out to meet Carly's financial needs and her deadlines.
Also, I mean, it kind of ties in with this, but it would be good to talk about the budget before the budget hearing, right?
Yeah.
It's a concept.
Our budget hearing is when?
June 20th?
So if we had everyone here except for Lacey on the 28th,
Do it by phone? Could you call in? Or are you gone, but
Yeah, I'm unavailable.
perfect. I like it. Me too.
Sorry.
and I'm thinking negative levy outcome.
I'm thinking positive.
Well, I know, but we're trying to do Plan B here.
Yeah, I know,
This is-
right.
So, we have 4 people out of 5.
Policy only requires one to be present, just physically
Can
present.
can we back up a second?
Yeah.
Carly, when the levy passes, we have so long to have the board members
Accept
accept the
the
canvas. How
canvas.
many days do we have?
I don't know, I just asked when they are canvassing. I didn't ask that question. So they're canvassing on the 28th.
Right. They're canvassing on the 28th,
Yes.
so it'd be perfect to do it
So we should do it after the 20th.
probably the 29th then,
Why
really,
do
because
it
it gives them a
until?
little bit of time. Because we're gonna pass the levy.
May 29th?
And then the good news on that would be,
Okay,
the good news on that would be, we would just be looking at curriculum.
well, then it's gonna have to be the 28th, because you're here, you can be the 28th.
Oh, yes.
You can do the 28th.
I can't.
Lacey's the only one that can't. But it has to be 5:30 or 6 o'clock.
6.
Thinking?
Yes.
Here. I mean, usually,
Will that work for you too, Kim? 28th at 6 p.m. There should be no reason for an executive session, correct? Just open session?
This open session?
Open
Go ahead.
session? Okay.
6 o'clock.
Right now at this time, we haven't went through superintendents yet, so.
I hate to be that person,
So
but is that
what
the only
is your
one
agenda
person?
item on the 28th? What is your agenda item gonna be?
Because you're gonna need more than one.
Do you want me to it's either gonna be one of two things,
It
right?
makes it better. I like my email.
Discussion of,
I've started mine already,
well, I don't know, what are we gonna talk
but
about?
I don't have to have it by August.
Well, it might be discussion of levy, or it could possibly be canvassing of ballots.
No, just the same canvassing of ballots.
We don't know yet, talk to the levy, so I will make the agenda after the fact, and I will talk to you then.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's do that. That doesn't work for you, 28th?
No, it does. I was just curious if that's the only special one. Is that where I'm gonna talk about my budgets? Are you gonna do more?
We're going
Oh,
to
wait,
the
wait,
7th.
wait. So,
Yeah, because you gotta have yours in by what, June 10th?
My budgets?
Yeah.
No. We're doing the hearing on the 20th and
20th,
then,
that's
yeah, and then we have,
It's July 1st.
You're going to the 7th,
I'm gone through the 7th.
11th, 10th? It's Monday, Tuesday that week, that gives you.
I'm not gonna be around for that.
Okay, so I
Oh,
could
let's see.
do the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, any of those days.
Oh, I guess I could do the 10th or 11th.
I can do,
And this is
Friday
Friday,
the 14th.
budget workshop.
I can do the 3rd through the 7th.
Yes, it's to focus on the budget.
Oh, you won't be back till the 7th. Yeah, so anywhere past the 10th, I'm good.
I can do the 10th or
12
11th.
works for me.
Which day?
10, 11, or 12 works for me.
10 or 12 works for me.
Do 10. I'm good with 10.
Okay.
6 p.m.?
You?
Yes.
We don't have executive or anything like that.
Not for that one either, these are both just open sessions. And this is just for like a budget workshop, or is it?
Well, I think it would be good, because last year, I just went into the budget hearing, and again, it was my first year presenting it, so I was like, here you go.
But
And
so,
I was like a little bit more.
so budget workshop
Yes,
is your
please.
agenda item, okay,
Yep.
and that's the only thing for that night? Okay.
I mean, unless we need to sneak other things in there too, we got a lot going on.
Hopefully we don't. Yes, optimistic. Okay.
Well, what about principals if the levy passes?
June board meeting.
Okay.
Yes,
I'm
because
busy.
they're already hired. They already got their approval.
I got you.
Mhm.
Got our contingency plans. All right, moving on. We're good with that? Approval of policies?
Wait.
What do we do? We have to make a motion?
We jumped some guns here.
Meeting dates? Oh, consult
We
firearms.
did all of our possible levy, so we did all of our possible levy dates under the school closure
Out of the
process.
school
So
okay.
I will move those down, but jump back up to your concealed firearms.
Concealed firearms. Mr. Spot.
My task was to find sites. And so on my trip home through Spokane, I met the guy who does the public safety psychologist report, talked to him, and then there's a public safety, I don't remember the exact name of the company out of Seattle, that was on a webinar with them yesterday. $700 in Spokane, $480 all by Zoom. They both are qualified to do police, law enforcement throughout the country. They can get, the people in Seattle I think are the best because before COVID, they did everything to Zoom. She's got the person in charge has a fleet under her to do a lot of stuff. And so Larry and I have been talking, we're gonna recommend them, but there's also other things that we wanna bring back to next meeting and say, here's what it's gonna look like. Sent an email out yesterday to ask for people to become grantees. Interest have 6 or 7 back. We're looking at trying to build something around 10. And next month, we're gonna have something for the board to look at.
An actual recommendation.
Yeah.
Proceeding.
No action really needed.
No action.
Now, let's move on to approval of policies.
Okay, the 30-50, the question came up, was put on because we're having hearings, where there are doctor's notes, so,
I think you're supposed to raise 5,000. Yeah, 5,000.
The 5,000.
okay.
Reduction in force,
Reduction in
reduction in
force.
force procedures. I feel like I've read one of them and there was a few, just little spelling errors. Maybe you fixed it, I don't know. Make sure. So I said Mountina.
Yeah.
Yes. So is it possible to
Yeah, you're right in pointing out a few typos.
Yeah, just little ones. Yeah. I'll get rid of it. Oh, there it is. Right on the top of the page, 5740-1. If we can fix Mountina View School District 244.
All right.
think that was good. I think that one was good. I will go with, policy. Are we moving it to a second reader, or are we gonna go for it? And it's your decision.
Well, you have to say, they were put on there because we didn't have them and we found them.
Yeah.
So they have pretty current dates.
They're active.
Okay. I was gonna say, it was implemented. Okay, I would move that we approve the Series 5000.
As I would, I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
$3,000.
This is your second reader.
Yeah, 3050, the question came up, why are we having hearings when there's a doctor's note? And so we, on page 2, number 4 says hospitalization, verified doctor's notes. And then down in the paragraph underneath, it also said medical or dental, and we were having hearings based because we didn't have any notes. So we changed it to say unverified medical and or dental, so that as letters went out to say you have, 3 absences, 5 absences, then the principals could bring that to the attention of the parents that we needed the notes.
Yeah.
So that then, because the school system can no longer call the doctor's or dentist office, say we need a note because of HIPAA, that would just encourage the parent to say, look, get back in touch with the clinic and get the note sources. To us so we can clear the absence. So then it would take, if you got 4, we would take it down to 3, let's say.
Yeah.
Or, again, if there's ongoing medical throughout the months ahead and there was absence of building, those could be cleared out.
Okay. Yeah.
I guess the idea is working together.
Well, we need to clarify what that term is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, so, I
Motion.
would, motion that we, approve and accept attendance policy 3050A1 with amendments as specified.
Larry, are you just doing?
Just the one, because
Just
the
the one,
other,
okay.
the other one I think is gonna end up,
Okay, I'll second that.
going to another reading.
Okay, so hang on. Okay, I'm good.
Have a motion, all in favor?
Aye.
3345, Larry, Dunn, and Bush and I met today. We have edits, and we need to give you guys a chance to look at them before approving. And the edits, it didn't change the intent of the policy, but just the clarification on what was trying to be accomplished through the policy.
That's right.
And this is our restraint and seclusion.
Yeah.
So we want to take this to a second reading? Third reading. Okay, I'll motion we take policy number 5740, PA1, reduction of, oh, sorry.
It's 3345.
3345, restraint and seclusion to a third reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Seems 2,000.
These are third reading.
2310.
Third reading.
Right.
No changes were made. Maureen was asked to provide feedback. She said she'd get it to me,
Is she or no?
and yes.
Oh, there she is.
You got it.
It's the feedback on the wellness policy, it's not just me,
Right.
there's parents, staff, community, board members all have a say in what you want. It's your wellness policy. I just kind of enforce the policy. Or oversee it, I guess, is a better term.
So you have no requests or recommendations for any edits between the two documents?
I know Charity has done a lot of cleanup on it, and I think she's got us going in the right direction. This is a policy that this state requires us to have, and it requires to be updated every 3 years, and that's where we are.
I'll make a motion that we accept the, policy 2310, nutrition education, and 8200, local school wellness.
You're doing both, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll split it if you want.
Nope, I can split it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to superintendent search.
Okay, hang on a
Kate.
sec, I need to phone Kate.
This is Katie.
Hi Katie, it's Tracy.
Hi Tracy, how are you?
Good, how are you? We are in open session.
Oh, great.
We want your expertise here.
Yep, so I will turn it over to you.
Awesome. Okay, well, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, what was that?
So I was gonna say, Tyler is here, and then we have Vice Chairman Larry Dunn, and a board member, Lacey Myers, is here. And then we will call.
Okay, great.
We'll call board member Edwards when we go back into executive session, so she can go take us back in.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for letting me speak to you over the phone today. My name is Katie Russell. I'm with the School Boards Association, and I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person. I'm actually at a conference in Twin Falls this afternoon for school communicators. But I just wanted to quickly go over some hiring best practices and open meeting law with you all, just so you feel prepared for when you go and talk about applications, what you can and can't do in open meeting or executive session. So I'll just start really quickly here by going over when you should be in open session versus when you should be in executive session. So per Idaho Code 74-202, the board should be in open meeting anytime you're discussing qualifications, the timeline of the search, survey results, the superintendent process in general. So, you know, anytime you're talking about things that aren't specific to a certain candidate, you'll be in open session for that. And then you'll also be in open session anytime you're making a decision. So no decisions on if you're moving candidates forward, anything like that will be done in executive session. So once you kind of have an understanding of where everyone's at, you'll want to move out of executive session and into open session to vote as a board. Per Idaho Code 74-2061A, the board should hold meetings in executive session when you're discussing specific qualities of a candidate. This would be when you're discussing like the application packet, if you do reference calls, when you're discussing reference call results, if you do any kind of background check, anytime you're discussing anything specific to the candidate. So like if you were to do like a community forum or something like that and you got community feedback and it was specific to that candidate, you would discuss that in executive session. So, but again, you don't make any decisions about any candidates in executive session. So once you feel like a conversation has kind of exhausted itself, everyone's kind of spoken their piece, and you feel ready to make a decision as a board, you'll come out of executive session, move back into open session and make that decision. If you ever have questions about any of this, the Idaho Attorney General's office has a great resource, the Open Meeting Law Manual. It's on his website. It's really easy to access. And this has resources not only for when you're doing superintendent searches, but any other time that you may have questions about anything in a board meeting on whether you should be in executive session or open session. You can always go there and look at that. It's updated every time we get a new attorney general, and it's a really great resource. You can print it out if you'd like to have it with you. Another thing I want to touch on when doing a superintendent search is the importance of confidentiality. It is extremely important that when you are discussing candidates, any of the people who apply for your superintendent search, that you're keeping all the information you receive from their applications confidential, only to you, the board, and, or anyone else that may be in executive session reviewing them. We don't want the candidates to find out that things that were said about them outside of executive session. And this also comes into play when you're moving candidates forward from like the first round when you first review applications, because sometimes candidates' bosses may not know that they have applied for a position. While we always do notify the candidates that there's a chance their name could be said in open session, sometimes they don't tell people, and if they're not moved forward and if some word somehow still gets out that they were a candidate and it surprises people, it can just cause some bad blood in their current position. So confidentiality is really important. And then I just want to touch on one thing about confidentiality. If you have 5 or less candidates in a search, you still only have to say the names of the candidates that you are moving forward to the next round. So let's say you move 3 candidates forward, you would only say the names of candidate A, candidate B, and candidate C in open session. However, if someone were to do a public records request, you would have to disclose who the 5 or less candidates were that did apply. But that is only if you have 5 candidates or less. So some other just hiring best practices that are important to note is that there are some prohibited employment discriminations that you need to be aware of. Per the Equal Opportunity Employment Commission, you are not allowed to discriminate against a candidate on the basis of age, disability, pregnancy, race, color, religion, or sex. And so if you're in a meeting and you hear the conversation going this route, I would strongly encourage you to redirect the conversation to a route that is not being discriminative of these subjects.
Okay.
And then, do you have any questions about any of that?
I don't think so.
No.
Okay, great. And then I'm going to pivot a little bit and just talk about some ways that people can be a superintendent in Idaho. So there are 3 different ways people can be a superintendent. The first way is that they've received their Idaho superintendent credential through an accredited university in Idaho. This would be like CSU, U of I, NNU, any college in the state that has a program. They've taken the program, they've completed the program, they've received recommendation to get their certificate, they've paid the fee, and they have their certificate. That's the first way you can get a superintendent certificate. And then the second way is that you have an out-of-state superintendent certificate. So Idaho has a reciprocal agreement with most out-of-state, most states outside of Idaho that makes it really easy to transfer an out-of-state certificate into Idaho. sometimes it's as simple as them filling out the paperwork and waiting for the department to approve everything. Sometimes the department may need to look at their transcripts and they may see that maybe they need to take a math class that's required in Idaho that's not required in their state. So it's usually pretty simple. If that's the case, the SDE is really great about looking over those out-of-state applicants and ensuring that they're doing everything that they can to get the Idaho superintendent certificate. And then finally, the third way that you can get one is that you're currently enrolled in an accredited program to become a superintendent. This means that if you're enrolled in an accredited program through U of I, NNU, any of those colleges, and you're showing positive progress and you're going to graduate in 3 years or less, you are allowed to get a superintendent certificate in Idaho. If you have any questions about any of this, the SDE has some resources on their website that you can go look at that, and they're also a great resource. I'm also happy to answer any questions about any of the candidates. So we're always happy to help with that. And then finally, just to quickly go over when you're ready to do reference calls, if you choose to do reference calls, we just recommend that the board, in order to keep it fair and transparent for both the candidates and the community, we recommend that the board chooses a select group of questions and they ask that select group of questions to each reference for each candidate. This makes it fair and transparent, but it also gives you a really easy way to compare reference calls. You've asked all the same questions. You have all of the same answers to the questions, where then it becomes really easy to compare what the reference calls are. And we also recommend that you do this with interview questions. If you do community forums, we recommend that you do that as well, just to keep it fair and transparent. You can share these questions with your community, your staff, anyone you want beforehand so that they see what you're planning on asking the candidates. And this is just a great way to show them that you're taking into account things happening in the district that you feel are important, things that are important to your staff members, your community members, etc. That's pretty much all I have for hiring best practices. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Katie, if we get into executive session and have a question, can I call you back?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Katie.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you, Katie, we appreciate it.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much, and I hope everything goes well.
Yes, thanks, Katie, bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.
All right.
Greenville baseball team won.
Ooh, well.
Yay.
So it's CV softball.
So sorry.
Baseball won this morning.
Yes, so,
They won this morning.
Oh, baseball won this morning.
it looks like we're gonna need to determine the superintendent semifinalists and postpone that
Until after executive
until
session.
after executive session, as well as next steps in superintendent search. We need a motion for that?
No, because you're just gonna postpone to after
Yes.
executive.
Informational items.
All right, I have two procedures. Stuff came up trying to finish these projects off. I'm giving them to you. If you have issues with them, see me. And, the new superintendent coming in, I would network with them right away to say, here's what needs to be addressed so that the procedures can move on, because I think they're critical to the two areas of coaching certification and then work schedules or work years for the principals.
I think we're
good? Ready to close?
Yeah, well, no,
No?
you wanna make a motion to go back into executive session.
Or close open meeting.
No, we don't close the
Don't
meeting.
close open meetings,
No.
no, because you're gonna come back out into it.
We're gonna set.
Oh, all
You
right.
need to make a motion to go
Make
into
your
executive.
motion.
So you're gonna move to go back into executive session per Idaho Code 72-201, A, B, and J.
All in favor?
And you gotta copy.
And I gotta call B, hold on. B's gotta get us in, you gotta call B. Call B.
So can we get a clarification?
Wait, we have a motion on the table,
Oh,
hold
sorry.
on. Call B so we can
B's
go
gotta
in.
get us into it.
Mm-hmm. You have your motion, but you need B.
I reached B at work.
Oh, B. Look at
We
you.
won't be doing anything.
Okay, try to call John.
Yep.
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 Hey!
Hey, ask John to get us into executive.
Can you get us into executive session?
Oh, and B's calling back too.
He's calling back. All right,
Okay,
so,
we just need you to say aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We'll
And
catch you
then
later.
grab B too if you want.
Okay. All right, bye.